All right. And welcome, everyone. Welcome to a very special day as we get our videos in place here. Just there we go. All right. So I just want to say big hello and happy day out of time to everyone in the BitClout community and all around the world who might be tuning in through different YouTube streams and the rest out there. So today is an incredibly special day for many different reasons, and we call this day the day out of time in the 13 moon Mayan Dreamspell Calendar. So when we're tracking time, it's a day that's dedicated to really just letting go of all the chaos, all the noise that's around us, and that's all the evolutionary challenges that we've had in the year leading up to this day, and just letting it all go and just having a space to come back, to recenter, and to take a moment out of time to reconnect into the bigger picture. And so it's my absolute delight and pleasure to invite a dear friend in both this work and in person. She is an incredible musician and an artist in her own right in so many different ways. And I'd love to introduce you to our beloved Lee Grain. So Lee, I'm just going to see if I can get this window sorted here. There we go.
Hi.
Now, Lee, so what we thought is we'll start with a beautiful song first, and then we can go into our conversation. So I'll give you the spotlight.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everyone. It's morning right now where I am. I believe also where Mark is in Perth. We share the same time zone. And happy day out of time to everyone listening. Wanted to start with a song called Whole. And it's remembering the interconnectedness of us all. So whether you're listening from a different part of the world, know that we are all connected. We are all just part of it all. We are all just part of it all. We are all just part of it all. You'll find it in your soul. You are part of something more. We are born from it all. In and out of you is a world that only you knew. Nobody can tell you what to do, 'cause it's all within you, and it's all within you. Oh, we are all just part of it all. We are all just part of it all. We are all just part of it all. You'll find it in your soul. You are part of something more. We are born from it all. When you look up in the sky, you know that when you close your eyes, you see our universe inside. 'Cause you know in your heart, you were born from the stars. Oh, we are all just part of it all. We are all just part of it all. We are all just part of hear your song, and their soul reflects your soul. You know, you are part of a whole. We're all just part of it all.
Lee, thank you. Thank you. That's beautiful. And Lee, I want to start as well just by actually thanking you for being here today, for saying yes to BitCloud, for coming in and joining the community and bringing your beautiful grace into the world.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to explore the world of BitCloud. And to all of us joining here now, welcome. I'm just so honored to be sharing this very special day, auspicious day with my dear brother Mark. And when we had our connection call just before we did the live stream, you know, I just wanted to share with everyone listening, just honoring the incredible work that Mark has been doing for the community with his Mayan Galactic Weather Report he's been doing through the years. And I just feel really honored to be sharing this space with him today, you know, as we all celebrate Day Out of Time, also known as Day of Forgiveness around the world. Very auspicious day on the planet. And I just wanted to honor all of the teachers that have come before us. I wanted to honor the work that Jose Arguelles has done for bringing this into our consciousness in the modern times. You know, I wanted to honor Vasumi, whom I've heard the Mayan Dreamspell from for the first time, and just honoring everyone that's continuing the work. So,
yeah, thank you, Lee.
Start with that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really appreciate it. You know, it's one of the greatest things of growing up for me over the years was really learning. As excited as the little kid in me is for the future of what's possible, it's important we take time to honor and have reverence for what's been and what led us to this point. And so I love that you bring that. And in full transparency, everyone, when Lee was sharing earlier and she sung that song as well for the sound test, I was like a little baby crying, you know, just really feeling like that space you hold, Lee. Just, you know, like I mentioned to you, it's not just your music, which is exquisite, but just your presence and your capacity to hold space like you do. It's, you know, I just felt that that armor that I wear sometimes to push forwards, it just melts around you. And so you're all going to see an ultra sensitive version of me today.
I love it.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, huh? So I guess, Lee, I mean, for those that are watching, because I mean, what we're offering here is fairly new, I think, to a lot of people on the platform. So if anyone is aware of the Dreamspell or the Mayan Dreamspell and the 13 Moon Calendar, etc., you know, chuck a comment in the comments, and if we don't get to them in the live stream, we'll see them afterwards. It'd be nice to know.
Yeah.
But how would you, Lee, describe the Mayan Dreamspell? Like, to someone that's never come across it, what's your elevator pitch of what it is and why you love it?
Why I love it. It feels like it's a more harmonious way of tracking time. And instead of going through the rigmarole of just following the calendar, it's tuning into something that is alive. You know, what is the energy of the day? Tuning into the spiritual dimension of what is happening beyond just what's going on in our physical existence. And to me, it's I guess when I think of synchronicity, you know, it's being part of that divine order, organizing itself. It's this intelligence that is moving through the planet. You know, all of life on the planet is attuned to this time. And as a human being, you know, for me, it's more natural to connect with the dream spell to track the 13 moon. You know, it feels for me that I'm it's kind of like that gear that's perfectly in place. And for me, when I follow the dream spell, that's how I feel about time. In that natural order.
Yeah, and I love that you bring those cogs in because it's you know when often it's synchronicity and these things sounds like fluffy, kind of new agey kind of words, and it's you know I just had to replace the gearbox on my car the other day, which, by the way, anyone that ever has to do that will know that's a pricey exercise. And the reason is because a gearbox is full of so many different gears, right? A lot like our world. We're all different size cogs. We have different amount of little points, and the way we connect, we're all very different and unique. And in a gearbox in a car, it's the same. There's all these little gears of all these different shapes. And the only way that you can get trajectory and motion in life is when those gears synchronize. It's what they say. You have to synchronize your gears in your car. And it's when synchronizing gears is when we get them to meet at the right point and work together. And so I love that you bring that in because that is, for me as well, like one of the most powerful and beautiful things of the Mayan dream spell is it really does feel like a tuning fork for synchronization. For each of us as different cogs in this bigger machine of consciousness exploring itself.
Yeah, when you're sharing that, I think about when we talk about gears, all of them are like moving in order. So I feel that when we start to tune our mind into a calendar that is harmonious, not only honors the solar cycle, which is the masculine principle of life, but also the moon cycles, tracking the moon time, which is feminine, it feels very balanced. And it's like being one of those gears that sinks into order. So you can be part of a divine synchronicity unfolding.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those that are very fresh to this or might come from a more left brain world, because BitClout is, full of amazing kind of developers, creators on many sides, but thankfully they also have a very right brain openness to the world. But if you are not very used to this kind of, I guess you could say cosmic conversations that we're having, some people can be a bit worried about it being another belief system or another this or another that. And one of the beautiful things that I've come to really appreciate about the dream spell is, to me, it really is more about, there's no belief system needed. You don't need to believe in it. You don't need to believe in anything, but rather it's almost like it's almost like a beautiful way of giving you some material to write your story with, to shift your perception of reality, to give you another framework to maybe look at what's going on that you can play with, you can try. And if it works for you, then that's great. And if it doesn't, well, that's great too. But what I've found is that as we more and more just allow and relax into the codes and how they flow, it's blown my mind how many people actually do resonate with the flow. Which is really why we're here today, right? With the day out of time. For those that are not aware, the day out of time happens the moment between we move into a new year. So this is technically the Mayan Dreamspell New Year's Eve on the 25th of July. So that's why we're here today. So that means we have just completed 1 year and a new year begins tomorrow on Monday. And so each of these years has a theme. And the theme is kind of decided by the beginning of the cycle. So the theme for the new year starts on Monday. We'll talk about that a bit later. But should we talk a bit about the year we've just gone through?
Yes. And I wanted to just add, it's considered the new year in the ancient Maya because it follows the Syrian cycles, the completion. And so on this day, July 25th, the binary star system Sirius rises with the sun in the horizon, which marks the new year. So that's why this is called the new year. So it follows that 52-year progression of Sirius in our star system as we track it. So today, in Mexico, when you can see that star rising with the sun in the horizon. So it.
Just before we do
tomorrow,
go
sorry,
past...
tomorrow. That's tomorrow because we're in the eve. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, and that is such an important point, Lee, because it's something that I love so much about this system is, they talk about one of the issues with time, as Jose Arguelles used to say, is we measure time by atoms. these days. That's where we keep our most accurate clock, according to humanity, is according to atoms and how fast they move. So they've got something they track, physical. In the old days, they used to have the clocks, tick tock. It was always something physical. And the challenge with this is that's a three-dimensional concept, but time is fourth dimensional. So when you're measuring something that's as expansive as this fourth dimensional time, it gets very restricted and limited by the 3D kind of perspective. And that's where we find ourselves, there's not enough time. And it's like, well, time is infinite. Time's not the issue. Time isn't even linear. The issue is our perception of time. And as you're saying, it sinks into the Sirius star system, which allows us to take a moment out of our Earth time, our Earth matter, and to bring our awareness out to a more cosmic level, to a more galactic level, where that synchronization allows us to perceive a little bit more outside of the human story, in a sense. And I think that's a magical thing.
Yeah, all too often it's just life happening, that we are sometimes focus on our own little stories unfolding. But it's kind of like when you look at Google Earth, right? You start to zoom out and you just start to see yourself smaller and smaller, and you start to see the location where you're at becoming smaller, and you start to have this perspective of the Earth from afar. And you start to see that there is no borders. You start to see that it's just this one beautiful planet, and it is a spaceship, because we are on it and we are traveling through space. And it's amazing because it really affords us this finite time of life on this planet when we think about it. When we look at the Earth that is spinning 19 miles per second in space, that's how fast it's moving in its rotation, 19 miles per second.
That's
Yet
wild.
here I am sitting, and I am afforded stillness. And it gives us this perspective that there's so much going on out there, but the kind of experience that we are being given here is absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah.
So it helps shift our perspective, beyond just what's going on in the physical plane or the physical world. And I think that's really where. Go ahead.
I was just going to say on that, the visual I see is, when you're talking about the planet, and it's such a crazy thing, because it's of course it is, but how many times you stop to think about it? Like, we are literally flying through this infinite space we don't understand at a speed beyond our comprehension, spinning around at the same time wildly. And yet, just like you're saying, we can still have this stillness. And I think that's such a beautiful, beautiful metaphor as well, an analogy for what we've been through in these last years, through all these transformational times, through these intensities, through no matter how chaotic our life might feel, no matter how much of a victim to the madness of humanity that we might feel at times, if we can find peace and stillness while being shot through the galaxy at these ridiculous rates, spinning like wild, and we can find peace, then those little issues with someone not liking your tweet or some family member just triggering your button is so minute in comparison, and really just shows that no matter what your situation, that peace is there, that stillness is always there, has never left you, right? And that's where I find these gatherings help us come back to that moment.
And it's beautiful that you brought that up, because it's again, we're talking about the mind. It's everything is happening inside this mind, and that's why for me it was the most transformative time. Because our mind is constantly programming itself to time, to the calendar. So when our mind is starting to program to something harmonic, which is the 13 moon dream spell. And all of the indigenous peoples have been following the 13 moon through millennia, and it's like allowing our mind to switch into a harmonic time. And once it does that, then harmony starts to flow in our lives, and we start to see more synchronicity instead of our mind plugged into a time that is just all about money, greed, that there is not enough time, that we just have to continue working. And I think, the intention of the gathering and sessions that we are having, part of our conversation is to have this space, and thank you to Cloud Forum for giving us this space, because for me it's a space to exhale, to allow our mind to just take a pause from so much information that we are digesting per second as we are online, and just kind of like come into this space where we can recenter, where we can allow the mind to just be still. And this is also the 13-year wave spell we're in, right, Mark? The White Wizard, which is not so much about doing, but just being, pulling back.
Absolutely, that receptivity of being able to. And I'm glad you bring this in, because we've just completed the second year of this 13-year evolutionary process of the White Wizard, which, as you say, is not about doing, but about allowing, really, isn't it? It's like being willing to open. Like Leonard Cohen would say, everything has cracks in it. That's how the light gets in. And in some ways, it feels like the White Wizard is supporting the cracking so that the light can come in. That strong grip our mind has on trying to control the unknown. And what happens if you just let go a little bit and let that light in? And what happens then? And let's see what happens when the world becomes enchanted, when that magic of, the Lord of the Rings and these kinds of movies that we watch, these fantasy things where, the trees are alive and they speak, that's enchantment, and I think it's a beautiful thing that we're in that process right now, and this Dreamspell calendar gives us a framework to make some sense out of the nonsensical. And for me personally, it just really does exactly like you say, helps me calm, helps me bring into the moment and still. And so it's, even though I may not have shared the work always, like I take my breaks, it's always there. Like I'm in my personal life, it is one of the few locked in rituals that I have of being aware of where we are in this calendar. And so it is really exciting that we get to come together now, because it's really inspiring to share again. So today is almost just the for everyone to get to know us, to get to know the community, to let people connect into the dream spell and take a moment at a time. And then we will be, as Lee, you were saying there, from next week onwards, the August 3rd onwards, Tuesday mornings our time, Monday night US time, then we'll be doing this as a regular thing, coming in, share some music, share some storytelling, and yeah.
Exciting. Yeah, I'm just excited that we can continue this conversation, regularly from here on out. I wanted to check in with you. Of course, I do love how you incorporate your poetry into your Galactic Mind Weather Report through the years. Like you said, even though you don't do it as regularly these days, I know that has served so many people in the community. So thank you for putting that work out there. It's been really, really incredible and really beautiful. So I'm thinking, day out of time. And I think, I'm just sinking into that day out of time and what it means. Day out of time is the 365th day. And what it means is that there are 28 perfect days in 1 month, one moon. So there's 13 moons, 28 perfect days in each moon, and there's an extra day. That day is today. That's why it's called day out of time for those listening. And what it means is because this day belongs to no month. It's a day out of time. And in a way, this is a day where it's kind of like an opportunity to reflect on the year that had gone by. And it's a day of forgiveness as well. When we talk about forgiveness, what is something that when we contemplate what our life had been for the past year, which is mostly pandemic time, what is something that we are asking forgiveness for, or what is something we want to forgive in the world, and so that we can wake up tomorrow kind of like in a clean slate. This is This is a nice time to be in nature. If you want to be silent, just very contemplative. So whatever you want to do for today is just perfect. So again, thank you for thank you for joining us um, in this special day. I
Absolutely.
wanted to I wanted to ask you, Mark. What has your experience been like for the past year? Because the past year was called the Blue Lunar Storm.
Mm. Well, that's probably a good baseline to set as we go into that, Lee. So for those, yeah, for the uninitiated in the dream spell, and a good reminder for those that are, the 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 last year from July 26th, 2020, day at a time, mathematics doesn't work so easy. Not in the Gregorian calendar anyway, the chaotic system that it is. To today, or the 24th essentially. 25th is a day out of time. This last year has been known as the Blue Lunar Storm. It's the second year of this 13-year wave, this evolutionary wave that is bringing more receptivity and enchantment to life as opposed to this masculine create, make, push. And each stage of those 13 steps plays a different role, right? So the first year was all about just attracting the purpose to help synchronize the globe to that purpose. This second year is the Blue Lunar Storm that we're just completing now. This second year, the lunar tone, wherever you see it, is all about looking at the physical challenges that we're going to come up against and polarizing them. So polarizing the challenges so that we can actually begin to discern what's a real challenge and what's just noise that we're making, right? Because it's so easy when I know that if someone gives me a job to do, and if I'm overwhelmed and I've never done it before, in my imagination, I'm sure lots of people can relate to this. In my imagination, that job or that mission becomes this big, scary monster of a mission. And there's all these unknowns and dragons and things I'm going to have to come against, which is really just the unknown and my projections of my fear of the unknown, right? But there are real challenges that we have to face. There are very real things that we are going to have to overcome in our physical reality in order to continue moving forward with our human evolution. And the Blue Lunar Storm, really works on that physical plane of helping us to polarize our challenges so that we can get clear on what it is we need to actually work on and stop wasting all of our creative energy on problems that aren't really problems. And the way that it does that is the blue storm archetype, right? It's the blue storm it's the liberator of energy. It's the world awakener. It's the shaking things up. When a storm comes through, anyone that's been hit by a hurricane, tornado, or something, full on like that, it will show you when that storm comes through where the weak points are in your buildings and your structures. If your structures have not been built on solid ground, with integrity, with vision of what they might need to handle in the future, then they may not survive a storm. And this lunar storm has been doing that for us on our collective level, right? It's been coming in on a personal level and collective level. It's been shaking us. There's been thunder. There's been lightning. There's been, big winds and there's been buildings falling over. And so the real message, that I feel drawn to over this last year is if your building doesn't survive the storm, if you're sitting here today in the day out of time with us, and this is that forgiveness aspect, right? If we're sitting here in this time and it feels like, well, shit, that's great. My whole world just got smashed. Thanks, right? Then come back to remembering that really it's just like a kid's Lego set. You build your Lego, you build up something, and then you break it down, and then you've just got infinite opportunity to rebuild again. Everything that has been broken down in your life, if you've lost relationships or friendships or work opportunities or things like that, then what's happened is the mental concept has been lost in the storm, but the energy that you were going to use to pursue that relationship or pursue that creation, that has been liberated and freed. And now you've got all this energy ready to go. And so this day out of time is a great time to let go, like you say, Lee, to forgive, the stories. Because if we hold on to those stories into the new year, then we're going to be kind of creating a drag, like a physics drag in your movement forwards until you do let it go. So that's kind of my Mayan weather report spin of the Blue Lunar Storm.
Beautiful. I was thinking of last year had been incredibly polarizing on the planet, with global events and maybe also as an individual experience. Perhaps we've felt that we are just on one end of the spectrum. There's so many topics all over the globe that really pulls us to another polarizing idea. And this intensification is, I see it as a really beautiful opportunity to find your center point. What is that stable area that sits in between the two polarizing ideas? And it's also on the planet, when I think of the Blue Lunar Storm, how challenging it is, with the pandemic, with elections, with everything that is happening right now, is a really amazing opportunity for transformation. And like you said, things that are not built in integrity, systems that are decaying are starting to really collapse. And for me, I see that as something beautiful, because we can plant new seeds from old beliefs, the soils of the old beliefs that we are still holding on the planet. And the storm is just there to help us see it for what it is, see what's wrong, and to really tune into what's going on, not just within ourselves. It's an invitation to see everyone as part of who we are, to see the suffering, to call out the suffering. When people say like, oh, we're in the same boat with this whole pandemic, and I love what I read, that somebody said, we're not really in the same boat, we're in the same storm, but some people are in a yacht in this storm, some people are in a canoe, some people are just on a life vest. So we are in this great storm, and the invitation is for us to tap into our heart and be a little more kind, I guess. We find a lot of rabidness in the online space in terms of pushing ideas and stuff, and when we voice out how we feel, somebody that's contradicting to how we feel might not be so kind. So I guess it's just a nice time to forgive all that, and come into a space of like, okay, that's been done, and we've learned so much. Now, how can we all come together despite our differences? How can we emotionally activate our hearts and live in our highest potential, live our highest dream? The Incas of Peru, through the work of Alberto Villoldo, he always shares that they say we're either living our sacred dream or we're either living in our nightmare. So which one is it? And when I think about that, I want to live my sacred dream. And how can we wake up from this nightmare of reality that we are experiencing on the planet? The poverty and just the destruction of nature. So to me, this is an exciting time to find our place in the world.
Absolutely. Lee, you just shared so much gold in everything you just shared there. It's the visuals of like, we're not in the same boat, we're in the same storm. That hit home for me. That really landed. It's such a beautiful metaphor for this challenge of this concept of equality, which has been really interesting to watch, because it's been interesting to watch how the very pursuit of equality has often led to more polarization, led to more, division, to more, and it's really been, for me personally, this last year, watching this storm has been a journey of really splitting apart all the kind of belief systems that I unconsciously had started building around what was right, what was wrong, who's on whose side, all these kinds of ideas. And as the storm's been rocking that boat, rocking this storyline, it's been really forcing me and challenging me to develop my self-awareness and really become more aware of what's real there and what's story, and really starting to see that a lot of the new age love and light communities that I'd spent so much time in, that within that was, yes, absolutely beauty, magic and gold, but there was also very insidious behavior of the shadow victim wanting to grab hold of something and feel like it belongs. And there was a challenge of that as well, where there was almost like it was trying to be one thing, but actually, the more the storm would shake, the more we would start to see the true personalities and characters and who people are, and whether there was space for that or not in those belief systems. And then in the mainstream world, where you used to be able to rely on governments, economics, and all these things as the mummy and daddy of the world, and all of us were able to once upon a time focus on those as the anchors of our society, they've now been polarized and broken open and split and scattered. And so then I'd spent this last year really focusing on how do we find this equality, because I was finding myself frustrated by a lot of the efforts to create equality, because for me, all I saw was more division coming from them, even though I can understand the concepts. And I think that's what really brings it back to, what is the storm really breaking open? And I think you touched on it so beautifully with what you were sharing. And I think it's compassion, right? It's our hearts that is breaking open. Like all the stories, all the other things, they're just things that are in the way of deep, authentic heart connection. And that's something that I see happening more and more right now, is the needing to agree on things is fading away. BitClout is a fantastic example. The Nacho average call, which a lot of people watching this will know that one. It's 24/7 call, always going for creators. So many differing opinions come into that space, but we all bond over compassion and a higher vision. And I think that's what we're really waking up right now.
I remember in one of the events I saw of Jose Arguelles online, he talks about the planet as like a spaceship, right? A time ship and a spaceship at the same time. And he used this metaphor when he was speaking about how divided we are, and how could that be when we are just one race on this planet. He said, if you can imagine us launching into space in a spaceship, and all of us have a different ideas, different goals, a rocket ship that's about to launch into space with a team that's just like, oh, this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to do, and what do you think is going to come out of that space journey? But when that spaceship has one thing in common, that's their goal, to achieve that, to work together, then they can come back and land safely back on Earth. And this is exactly the vision I want to meditate on. And how and where are we evolving towards as a human consciousness on the planet? People have said we've passed the tipping point from 2012, and you were experiencing a lot of extremes on the planet right now. And when we talk about the mind, when we talk about a spiritual evolution, there is also a spiritual awakening that's happening and sweeping the planet. A lot of people are questioning what's the purpose of life. You either feel super disconnected and alone, and that's why there are spaces like this, because it's an invitation for people to remember that we are all connected. And at the same time, it's an invitation to plug back in. To connect.
And to feel again.
We've evolved, but how are we really evolving?
Yeah.
because we have, we are supposed to be the most intelligent species on the planet, and we are the ones that are so separated from everything else on this planet because we think we are superior
Mm,
than everything else. And it's this superiority that has created such a havoc in the world, because it's
yeah,
just in this realm of separation. So from
absolutely.
separation to unity, when people say unity consciousness, I think about that. It doesn't mean that we're all going to have one idea, that we're all going to be the same mind. For me, that means we can all just be, but in harmony. We're all
Mm,
just an expression of that number one, that one mind. So it's just
absolutely.
the dissolving the polarity and finding the stability in that. And now it's exciting because we are moving into the third year,
Mm,
which is the yellow electric seed.
mm. Yellow electric seed right there. So that's starting tomorrow, starting Monday for everyone. Should we jump into it? What do you reckon?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you feel about what's coming? How are you sensing the year?
So for me, when I was dropping into this, it's so as we're saying, this is the year going from July 26th through until 2022. So this is going to be the year that follows the post or the kind of, we're still continuing with this pandemic, but I think everyone can feel the gears are changing. Something is shifting in the collective awareness right now and around this whole issue that we're facing as a planet. And as we go into this yellow electric seed, what keeps coming to me is just this vision, and you've kind of touched on it, but it's the storm has been like, it's like it's almost like through the industrial revolution and all of this success, all of these innovations, all of this technology that humankind has brought to the table, and also then got caught up in that arrogance and that ego, right? Which is normal. When anyone gets a break, we've got to be a bit forgiving there. Like everyone gets carried away and they feel like gods, and it goes into that place, and then we get natural corrections. And I kind of feel like that arrogance was necessary to get us through the survival stages of the evolution of humanity. And now we've gotten so carried away with our innovations and all the great things humans can do and all the bad things humans haven't done, that it feels almost like we forgot about our garden in our backyard, right? That the gardens in our backyard, the farmlands, etc., have kind of metaphorically become dry and parched and forgotten and abandoned for all this technology. That connection to the earth that we would get from working with our hands, that purpose from having to work with your hands and the earth has kind of been neglected. And I feel like the blue storm was kind of really making us have to come back to our own back gardens and break that earth, because it's like when you want to plant the seed of the future, the farmers need to first break the earth of the ground. The villagers need to get out there and crack it open so that the water can actually get in, so that the nutrition can be liberated, right? And I feel like that has been done beautifully by the whole COVID experience and process, and by the blue storm energy. And as we move now into the yellow electric seed, we're going to be working on the emotional plane now. So that was really working on our physical reality. Now we're moving more into the collective and individual emotional realm. And the electric tone is all about bonding in service to a higher purpose. So this is where we're now moving into a place, and this is even it's how cars are painted. Some cars and things and chroming's done is they use electricity to bond particles, and so electric is about bonding ourselves to, this process of opening to enchantment in our lives and receptivity. And it will help us target our awareness. The yellow seed is about target your awareness, what you're giving your attention to, on the seeds you want to see growing in your garden, not on the manure that surrounds the seeds, not on the weeds that are around the seeds. Don't sit and look at your garden every day and go, oh, those bloody weeds. You know, focus on the seed that is in there, because if you focus on the seeds and you know there's a gorgeous rose waiting to grow out of that seed, then you will naturally be inspired to clear the weeds every day without even thinking. You'll naturally want to water those seeds because it's just like your little babies. There's a joy in it as opposed to a service, you know? And I think what we're going to see is, with all this polarization having been accomplished, we're now all being left with seeds, like leftovers of what is you actually want to see in this world. And it's like you were saying, like, what do you contemplate? What is the bigger vision that we can all connect over? You know, it can't be about these physical things like, you know, vaccines or this or that, all these topics that are so loaded and physical and restricted and part of a story that, you know, it doesn't matter what side you take, they're naturally divisive, you know, and I think it's important that we're always allowed to have our differing opinions. So then, as you're saying, that if we're all unique in our actual expressions, what are the seeds we're actually planting? What is it we actually want to grow? Where is it we can connect on a greater level that still allows that freedom of unique expression without having to force censorship, without having to brute force good things in the world, which by its very nature is its opposite, right? So that's kind of what comes up for me when I contemplate the year ahead. Where does it land for you, my dear?
You've given so much to chew on. And just echoing that, you know, what the storm has paved the way for clearing. You know, now we're left with the rubbles. And how do we pick ourselves up from this rubble? And I think for me, from my conversation last night with dear friends, diving into the yellow electric seed transmission, one thing is that when we bring it to an individual perspective, it's easier not to get overwhelmed by what's going on with the world or the bigger purpose that we are supposed to do in service of the world, because sometimes that's too big of a responsibility to take, right? Sometimes we feel so helpless. How can we even begin to fix any problem on the planet? Because I'm just me. And again, when we think of vibration, and that is perhaps our biggest contribution to the change that we want to see in the world. And it's been said before, we cannot achieve peace or harmony if there is none inside. So for me, it's not about me participating in like, oh yeah, changing the world. No, I think it's more like, how can I change my reality into something more harmonious? Because the reality of what's out there doesn't have to be the reality that I can live in my own life. You know, there can be the news that we see, there can be all of these things happening, but how can we create harmony within our own lives? When I think about the seed, I think about our own human potential. You know, when we talk about earlier the sacred dream, if we can just bring our focus perhaps in our own selves, in our own life, you know, are we living a life that's bringing us joy? Are we living in an environment that supports us? Are we doing work that is fulfilling? You know, these are important questions to ask, because how are we tending to the seed of our potential? And this is the greater dream. If everybody is living their highest potential in our hearts, it doesn't matter if you're working the earth, if you're, you know, your passion is to go out into space and make people see how connected we are on the planet. It doesn't matter. Every one of us on the planet has a special holographic seed that carries our highest potential, and our job is to find out what is that design and who we are. You know, so for me, it always brings back to what is our own connection with ourselves, and focus on that. Like you said, it's bringing us in our own gardens, right? Like, let's look at the garden of our life. What kind of seeds are we planting? You know, what kind of life are we living, and what's the quality? Sometimes it just takes about questioning, oh, okay, what kind of seeds do I have in my mind?
Mm.
Am I watering the seeds of worry and seeds of separation, like seeds of competition, seeds of not having enough? Or am I, or do I want to bring my energy and my focus towards planting seeds of, how can I be of help?
Mm.
How can I contribute, instead of how can this world serve me? What can I do in my life to be of service?
Yeah.
So again, it's an invitation for mind and heart harmony,
Mm.
coherence. You know, and I
Coherence.
think about Healy. I
Mm.
think about that program in Healy called Coherence. You know, and now we have, technology is not the enemy. I feel it's there to serve as part of a. The innovation is serving us to further evolve. You know, how can technology support us in our well-being? How can technology support us in connecting more with people all over the planet? And the tools are there already. We just have
Yeah.
to. We just have to. I guess we just have to feel into our hearts, not just the mind.
Mm.
You know, that nice breath, and it's been said so many times, take a deep breath. Like, what does that mean? Why does that always work? Because when we take a deep breath, it's the breath of spirit. And how important is this
Mm.
breath during this time of pandemic when people can't breathe?
Right. A lot of the time doing the very opposite. Mm.
Right? Even just then. I've said so many words, and just taking one breath back into that stillness. And then we can go out there again, and the doom 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 doom.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Ah, what a wonderful hour we've had.
Yeah, it's been really sweet. It's amazing how it's like being on a river and the time just pitter patters away. And mm, thank you so much, Lee. I really appreciate it. And you're in closing, I want to share just off the back of what you were saying, Lee, that, you know, BitClout, which is where a lot of the audience will be seeing this, where we're sharing this too, this technology, this platform, this new technology that's come, you know, it's like I've got the symbol of it tattooed on my skin. The only other symbol I have, the only tattoo I have is actually the Mayan butterfly on my chest. The only two symbols I have. And the reason that I put this on and so quickly was because I recognize one of the things that this technology is doing, blockchain that has led to decentralization, that has led to BitClout, is it's creating technologies that are allowing us to come back to ourselves, to really begin to take the dreaming, the reimagining of the dream spell, right? From this old paradigm of energy factor by time equals money. That's kind of the equation we've been operating off, our society. The energy we put in with our time, well, it's got to make profit. And we're moving gradually and faster. We're moving into this new frequency, this new mathematical equation where energy factored by time equals art. Art being essentially any expression that comes from the heart, that comes from divine purpose, from inspiration, from that breath you talk about. That is art. Whether you're a developer, a coder, or you're a poet and a musician, or you're a healer in whatever form, whatever is your role, whether it's just as a gardener in your backyard where you may think no one ever sees you, every one of those seeds of purpose, of potential, is important. And BitClout and technologies like this are allowing us to reimagine, like children. You know, what are the new economics going to look like where I'm inspired to combine my energy with the time that I have to create art, and that I can thrive on art, that becomes our currency as opposed to money. And I just really want to thank you for everything that you've brought in, Lee. The presence that you bring. I realize in some ways it's kind of what I think I've been missing, which is why I've probably have come in waves and then drop off again and come again with sharing this work is having that counterbalance that you bring. Is I feel it so much. I'm just so grateful for you. So thank you. Mm.
Ah, thank you to you, Mark, for dreaming this event, and I feel honored to do this with you. I want to thank Alex for
Mm.
the work that he's put in. It takes a whole village and team, to kind of create things like this that can run smoothly. So thank you, Alex. Thank you to everyone, and thank you to people in this room that joined us, and perhaps if you're listening to this later on, yeah, thank you for just being here and being part of the conversation. I look at the backdrop that you chose, which is the Northern Lights, and to me, the connection of that when we have solar, what do you call that again from the sun? I'm not a scientist, but when that
Solar
hits
flares.
solar flares that hits the northern pole and the southern, or the northern pole, it creates the lights, right? And the
Mm.
day out of time, the day of forgiveness, it's also an invitation to do the rainbow bridge meditation. And the rainbow represents peace. The rainbow is like um, everything, all the colors in one that makes it white. So if you can imagine today when you meditate or when you take a moment, to imagine the planet and imagine two arcs of rainbow wrapping around the planet like this, like an apple. That's the visualization of the rainbow bridge. And if you can imagine yourself sitting in the center of the earth, and that rainbow is also around you, shooting from the top of your head and back into the soles of your feet. Um, it's walking that rainbow bridge. Go
Beautiful.
ahead, Mark.
Just before we go into the closing, so we're in for a little bit more of a treat with Lee bringing us out. I just wanted to say a big thank you to one of the most beautiful men on this platform, Rome. Romy, if you want to, I think you might have had. Do you have something you wanted to say before we go into closing?
Yeah.
Hi,
Lee,
Ro.
thank you for being here. Good music. Obviously, everything putting this together. And just wanted to show you this. But just while you were doing the band.
Oh, wow.
You're incredible, man. Now, let me spotlight
Wow,
that
that is
fully.
beautiful.
There you go.
Can you hold that there, Rome? I just want to spotlight you properly. There you
Absolutely.
go.
I
So
love
Lee,
this.
Rome has been doing these little in the interviews and things we've been doing. It's like in the time of the interview, like by the end of it, he's just got these incredible little pieces of magic. Talking about energy factor by time equals art. Rome, you're my man. I love you. Like you embody it in so many ways. You light my
All right.
life up, brother.
Hey, I just pull from the inspiration, pull from the vibe, pull from the mood.
Mm,
Oh,
Thank
how
you
we
for
say
being
thank you. How we say thank you in our language is maraming salamat. Salamat. That means thank you in from the Philippines.
here. You're
I'm not
welcome.
sure where are you right now?
I'm in Buffalo, New York.
Okay. All right. Amazing. Thank you for that. So
Yeah,
sweet.
absolutely. No, thank you for being here. You guys.
Thank you.
beautiful. All right, thanks, Rome. I'm gonna bring this down. See, Lee, you're. I'm just. It's almost like I feel excited, like one of my friends from the outside world gets to come into my enchanted land of BitClout to meet all these creatures and magical enchanted beings that are on this platform, and like I can feel the joy in me right now, seeing you get to experience it with Rome and everything. So thanks for coming in here and playing. And anyone that watches this, comment, let us know if you enjoyed it and more. And we're going to be doing this from Tuesday the 3rd of August onwards or that'll be Monday evening, 10 p.m. New York time. We'll be doing this each week, so it'll be a place where you can come to recenter. We'll share a little bit about what's going on in the galactic weather and just have some conscious conversations around the madness and some music. So with that, Lee,
Thank you. just a space to, connect back to the soul. Thank you all for joining us. I'm gonna leave you with a song that was born during the pandemic. It's called Ocean Crossing. And day out of time, we're really crossing into the new year and feeling into our soul's calling, what that means. Let's just invite you to take a moment to just sense your breath for a second. And just feel this sense of gratitude that we are breathing, something so simple. That we can breathe. Giving thanks to all that it took for us to get here. Giving thanks to the spirit that moves in all things. Giving thanks to the earth for allowing us to be here to play. Giving thanks to the sacred elements of fire, the sun, for igniting us, for illumination. Giving thanks to the waters. Asking forgiveness to the oceans, the rivers, and things we've done in the past that just pollutes the ecosystems of the water. May we recognize that what we do to our waters, we do to our own selves because we are water. Giving thanks to the earth, our physical body as well. Giving thanks to our breath, the wind. Giving thanks to the galactic directions. Giving thanks to our ancestors. The star peoples, our star brothers and sisters. Giving thanks to ourselves for making it this far. Let's take a breath for the year that has been. Let that all go with peace, with gratitude for everything we've learned. Mystics calling, heaven whispering, lights are dawning, sun is coming in. Suddenly I feel like I fell upon my knees. I lift my head to look above and see clouds that are hovering, and I feel my soul calling, and here we are, ocean crossing. The sun hides from the moon again, eclipse my heart, remembering this whole time I've been running from it. But this time I'm here for it. Stars are keeping distant memories. Winds are singing ancient melodies. Suddenly I feel like I fell upon my knees. I bow my head to look within and hear ancestors guiding, and I feel blessings from my home, from the islands of the Philippines to wherever you are right now. Thank you so much, Mark. Just come in for a second as we close. Love you, my brother. Happy New Year's Eve.
Happy day out of time. I'm choked up in emotion and tears right now, and I love you so much. And our community. Thank you.
Just letting... Yeah, I'm just like suddenly feeling it. Just... I guess tuning into... you know, all the feelings, all the struggles and challenges in the world. Just letting them all go. Now there's some salt waters. Cleansing and purification. I love you, my brother. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We love you. Thank you for being here.
So much love, and you know, we can feel these feels and have fun. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
We'll see you all in just over a week. On the 3rd of August, Tuesday, it'll be the 2nd of August for US. And we'll just continue this love story of humankind, and we'll just keep it going every week. All right, Lee.
Love you.
Take care.
Blessings.
See you, Rome, Alex, everyone watching. Take care.